Barron Trump discovers his high school janitor, still working at 80. His next move stuns everyone. Barron Trump, the youngest son of former President Donald Trump, has always maintained a quiet presence away from the spotlight. But a recent act of profound kindness has revealed the depth of his character in a way no one expected. During a visit to his former high school, an elite private institution where he spent his formative years, Barron found himself walking the familiar hallways, lost in memories of his time as a student. It was then that he noticed an elderly man slowly pushing a mop across the floor, his movements careful but steady, his presence as much a part of the school's fabric as the walls themselves. The man was Mr. Henry Caldwell, the school's longtime janitor, now 80 years old and still working tirelessly despite his age. Barron remembered him immediately. The kind face that had greeted students every morning, the quiet helper who fixed broken lockers and wiped away graffiti without complaint, the man who had once slipped a few dollars to a student who forgot their lunch money. As Barron approached Mr. Caldwell, reintroducing himself as one of the many students who had passed through those halls, he was struck by the janitor's warmth and humility. What began as a simple conversation soon turned into a revelation. Mr. Caldwell was still working not out of choice, but necessity. His modest pension and Social Security barely covered his expenses, and his wife's mounting medical bills had left him with no option but to keep laboring well into his golden years. Worse still, he had endured personal tragedy, having lost his only son years earlier in a car accident. The school had become his family, the students his surrogate grandchildren, and his work his purpose. Barron listened intently, his expression unreadable at first, but those who know him well would recognize the quiet determination that settled in his eyes. A week later, Barron returned to the school with a carefully sealed envelope in hand. He had arranged for a small gathering in the library under the pretense of a casual reunion, ensuring Mr. Caldwell would be present. When the elderly janitor arrived, slightly bewildered but gracious as always, Barron handed him the envelope without ceremony. Inside was a check, an amount so substantial it would erase every one of Mr. Caldwell's financial burdens, cover his wife's medical treatments in full, and secure his retirement with dignity. The moment the janitor realized what he was holding, his hands began to shake, his eyes filling with tears as decades of worry and exhaustion melted into overwhelming gratitude. He tried to speak, but words failed him. Instead, he pulled Barron into a tight embrace, whispering a choked, "God bless you," as the room watched in stunned silence. The story of Barron's gesture spread quietly at first, shared in hushed tones among teachers and students before inevitably reaching the wider world. In an era where the Trump name is so often associated with controversy and extravagance, this act of pure, unpublicized kindness struck a chord. People marveled not just at the generosity, but at the fact that Barron had sought no recognition. He had simply seen someone in need and acted without hesitation. Mr. Caldwell, now free to retire, was given a heartfelt farewell by the school community, where he stood before the students one last time and shared a simple truth. "I've spent my life cleaning up after others," he said, his voice trembling. "But today, someone finally cleaned up my mess." Those who know Barron best say this moment was no anomaly. It was a reflection of the person he has always been. Despite growing up in one of the most scrutinized families in the world, he has remained remarkably grounded, his quiet demeanor masking a sharp awareness of those around him and a deep well of compassion. In a world where wealth and power often distort priorities, Barron's actions served as a powerful reminder that true character is measured not by what you have, but by what you give when no one is watching. For Mr. Caldwell, the gift was life-changing, but perhaps even more meaningful was the realization that after all those years of fading into the background, he had been seen, truly seen, by someone who cared enough to make a difference. And in that moment, the young man who had once walked those halls as just another student became something far greater, a quiet force for good in a world that so desperately needs it.